Good evening and welcome to the Saturday edition of Poland Daily. I'm Konrad Gorlinski and this is the news. Well, tomorrow, the Italians will go to the polls to elect new MPs and senators. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, of course, took the opportunity to threaten Italy with potential consequences should they make the wrong decisions. Von der Leyen also announced that Poland will not receive funds from the National Reconstruction Plan until it restores the so-called independence of its judiciary. Here's more.
The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, during a visit to the American University of Princeton, attacked Poland and Hungary and threatened Italy, who will elect parliament tomorrow.
We'll see if things go in a difficult direction. I've spoken about Hungary and Poland. We have tools if things go in the right direction. And people, as a body that is always where always governments have to be accountable to, play an important role.
The former Italian Deputy Prime Minister, Matteo Salvini, who together with Giorgia Meloni forms a center-right coalition, referred to the words of the president of the European Commission. The Northern League leader demanded an apology or resignation from von der Leyen. What is that, a threat? Please respect the free, democratic, and sovereign voice of the Italian people. The Italian center-right has a very strong emphasis on conservative and Christian values. According to journalists, such an attitude irritates the European elite. Miss Ursula von der Leyen, although she is a Christian, it is difficult for me to say that, represents so-called liberal totalitarianism, and therefore a cultural moral revolution. She also acts in the interests of Germany, which wants to build a single united nation with its headquarters in Berlin. The debate on the words of Ursula von der Leyen flared up in Poland as well. Politicians from the Law and Justice Party do not spare words of criticism towards the attitude of the president of the European Commission. Ursula does not like the fact that a power does not suit them is likely to win. As a result, there may be a situation where some in Brussels will lose their political influence. New left MPs defend Ursula von der Leyen using an argument about the way Adolf Hitler gained dictatorial power in Germany. We must all uphold as Europeans the rule of law in the European Union and also have an impact on what happens in other countries. So Poland should also give itself the right to be able to speak out in the case of these far-right, fascist elections in other countries. For many months, Poland was deceived by the European Commission about the payment of funds from the National Reconstruction Plan. The condition was to meet the so-called milestones, that is inter alia the liquidation of the disciplinary chamber of the Supreme Court. Von der Leyen's real name, blackmailer. She's not concerned with the rule of law, but with making sure that those whom Berlin wants govern. That's why I urged Prime Minister Morawiecki not to agree to the conditionality of the Reconstruction Fund. This is a tool for taking away sovereignty from the nations of Europe. According to experts, Ursula von der Leyen's statement reflects the EU's policy of blackmail towards Poland and Hungary. It manifests itself, among others, by imposing penalties on both countries and blocking the disbursement of funds from the National Reconstruction Plan under the pretext of problems with the rule of law. Ursula is not a very sly politician, and she happens to be honest about how things are going and what this Germany policy in the European Union is all about. That is, in short, there is a certain leftist elite gathered in Brussels that wants to build a supernation. Until now, it was so in the sphere of rather obvious guesses, but no one said it directly, because it was our reasonable suspicion that the European Union uses various means, legal and financial pressures, in order to influence the political decisions of voters in countries and government decisions. Elections in Italy tomorrow. The polls' favorite is the center-right coalition, made up of the Northern League, Italian Brothers, and Forza Italia parties. Time will tell what policy Brussels will pursue towards a possible conservative government.
Well, in the 4 oblasts in the east and south of Ukraine, partially occupied by the Russian army, pseudo-referenda are underway to annex these areas to Russia. This very voluntary vote is taking place in the company of men with loaded rifles on hand and is expected to run until Tuesday. Meanwhile, Ukrainian authorities have decided to strip the Iranian ambassador of his accreditation and to reduce the presence of Iranian diplomatic staff in Kiev. This was in reaction to Iran supplying Russia with weapons. Today, the Russian army used Iranian drones to strike the Dnipropetrovsk region and Odessa. 8 of them were knocked down. In response, the Ukrainian side has decided to deprive the Iranian ambassador of accreditation and also to significantly reduce the number of diplomatic employees of the Iranian embassy in Kiev. The world will respond appropriately to the pseudo-referenda. They will be unequivocally condemned, as well as to the criminal mobilization that the occupiers are now trying to carry out in Crimea and other parts of Ukraine, over which they hold a temporary control. These are not only crimes against international and Ukrainian law, these are crimes against specific people, against the nation.
Additional swift and severe economic costs on Russia, along with our allies and partners in response to these actions, if they move forward with annexation. We stand with our partners around the world in rejecting whatever fabricated outcomes Russia announces.
What's happening now, this farce that's underway, being called a referendum. In social media, we're seeing videos recorded by residents of the occupied regions. These are votes carried out in the presence of loaded weapons. There are even Chechen soldiers are assisting some bureaucrats, going door to door to convince people to go out and vote. Well, it's obviously impossible to have free and fair elections at gunpoint. And this afternoon, French energy giant Total Energies announced that it'll invest around $1.5 billion in a planned expansion of Qatar's liquefied natural gas capacity. The project promises to ramp up gas supplies to energy-hungry European markets.
The company's chief executive, Patrick Pouyanné, traveled to Doha to sign a deal with Qatar Energy chief Saad Al-Kaabi for the North Field South expansion, saying that the deal came at a perfect time when world leaders, particularly in Europe, were seeking new LNG supplies. Qatar's North Field expansion project will boost its position as the world's top LNG exporter and help guarantee long-term supplies of gas to Europe as the continent seeks alternatives to Russian flows.
And I am pleased to welcome my very good friend, Mr. Patrick Pouyanné, the chairman of the board and chief executive officer of Total Energies, to announce the selection of Total Energies as Qatars LNG first partner in the NFS project. Pursuant to the agreement that we will sign shortly, Total Energies will have an effective net participation interest of 9.375% in the NFS project, out of a total of 25% available for international partner participation, while Qatar Energy will retain 75% interest.
The total cost of the NFS project could not be disclosed, as some onshore contracts had not yet been finalized.
Most project contracts have been awarded, while the onshore EPC contract for NFS is expected to be awarded early in 2023.
Sources told Reuters last week that German utilities, RWE and Uniper, were close to striking long-term deals to buy LNG from the North Field East expansion to help replace Russian gas. Talks between Germany and Qatar have been fraught with differences over key conditions such as the length of contracts and pricing, but industry sources have said that the parties were expected to reach a compromise soon. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz landed in Saudi Arabia earlier today for a 2-day visit to the Gulf region that will also take him to the United Arab Emirates and Qatar.
But you know, the last comment, if Europe wants some security of supply, it has a cost. Now, if you want some volume to be delivered, security of supply has a price.
And finally, people took to the streets of La Paz, Bolivia yesterday with their pets in tow to protest animal abuse in their country and the rest of the world. The march was summoned after videos went viral on social media showing company workers of Compañía de Limpieza and Ingeniería Ambiental killing dogs with sticks and stones. In response, protesters, animal defenders, and members of the Bolivian police marched through La Paz streets with leashed dogs, rabbits, and even guinea pigs. I had 2 dogs, and they died, so I buried them. This one is like a son to me. He's always by my side. He sleeps in our bedroom. He's like a son. and he's part of the family. We love him a lot. They're part of the family. We don't consider them just as pets or just guarding animals as others see them. To us, they're like babies. We treat them as such and care for them. This is what we should all do. Local authorities have launched an inquiry into a possible biocide. Well, thanks very much for joining us this evening. Please stay with us for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and other programs. But from me, it's have a wonderful Saturday night.